Hello, everyone. I am your host with the most, Jam, and you're on the Splash Chance Network. Thanks for tuning in. Since my last video on the second impeachment trial of Donald Trump, a new development has broken in the southwestern United States. That's right, Texas has been having some severe winter weather. Now, that's a first in quite a long time. I mean, I don't think that there is a single person alive who can remember a time when Texas froze over. It's like the saying, when hell freezes over, except there actually is a city called Hell, and it does freeze over quite regularly. So take that at what you will. But in all seriousness, thousands are without power. Some have died because of this. And where are the representatives that the Texas people elected to help them? Well, Ted Cruz decided to go to Cancun, and I have now just an update popping up that Representative Gary Gates has taken off as well. Apparently, he has gone to Orlando, Florida, according to this news article. You love to see it, people. You really do. These elected representatives abandoning their people who are freezing to death in their homes, flying away on their private jets to tropical paradises. I mean, come on, ladies and gentlemen. What is going on? What is with the total lack of leadership in the Texas GOP? I mean, you had that one mayor who said people didn't deserve electricity. I've heard stories of people getting $16,000 energy bills. Was it the governor? Was it a mayor? I can't quite recall. Somebody saying that energy companies should be allowed to charge people as much as they want to create some sort of free market competition. The answer to that was not to charge people more money. The answer was to force those electricity companies to withhold billing cycles, just like we have with mortgages and we have with student loans. Put a stay on it. We do not need this right now. Not only are we in the middle of a pandemic, but we are in the middle of a deep freeze crisis. Now, I am from a northern state. I'm from Michigan. I live in a state that gets quite a bit of snow, quite a bit of ice. So to me, this isn't a big, like hearing what they're going through is normal. That's what we call a Tuesday up here. But down there, to people who have been acclimated to desert climates for the better half of a half a century, maybe even more, they haven't seen weather like this in their entire lives. This is new. And I believe, us northerners, people who have come from the world of eternal winter, we should help them. We should tell them what to do. So as a northerner, if you're a Texas or a southern person and you're experiencing this, here's my advice coming from somebody who just shoveled 1.5 feet of snow off of his sidewalk. Number one, if you see ice, don't walk on it. That should be a given, but you'd be surprised how many people think that they can walk over it. Oh, it's not that slippery. You are going to slip. If you do slip, the obvious, protect your head. You're going to fall backwards. Try to, brace yourself with your arms, or if you fall forwards, brace yourself. Don't let your head hit, because head on concrete is not a good combo. Black ice is a real tricky one, and that's the one I really wanted to talk about right now in the ice category. Black ice is named black ice because when it freezes over on the blacktop, you can't see it. It's perfectly clear. So it's actually clear ice. But we call it black ice because it gives off the appearance of being black because it's on the blacktop. The best way to spot black ice is to wait for the sun to gleam on it and to, see it reflect. But if it's a cloudy day and you can't see it, take out your phone or a flashlight and shine it on the ground, and the black ice will reflect back. Don't step on black ice. It's incredibly slippery. When it comes to snow, make sure you are not getting snow in your shoes, on your socks, in your boots. That stuff will melt. It will turn to water. And if the temperatures are below freezing, it will freeze. It is incredibly uncomfortable. Coming from the north, I remember getting snow in my boots in the winter. It's no fun to have your socks soaking wet, but no fun soon turns to extremely dangerous, as hypothermia can set in as your socks, the water in there can freeze. Make sure you are not getting snow in your boots or shoes, and if you are, that you immediately clean them out. Sometimes it is better to take your socks off and go barefoot in your boots than it is to keep them on. If your socks get wet, take them off. If you were outside, or if you're not in a position where you can go immediately back in the house, take your socks off. Put your shoes on with just your bare feet. Trust me, it's better than having wet socks. That is very dangerous. Those can freeze. Those can turn into hypothermia. You could lose a foot. Take your wet socks off. Take any wet clothing off. Your jeans, now if the bottom of your pants get wet, your jeans, you don't need to take them off. Just take like a napkin or a rag and wipe them down. But if you get soaked, like if your jeans like up here near your hips or the shirt gets soaked, take it off. Now, obviously don't go bare naked outside. That's just as dangerous, but take it off and put on something dry. Do not wear wet clothing out in the freezing weather. That is dangerous. When it comes to electricity, I know a lot of people have been losing electricity. I know a lot of people are without power and heat. Do not, under any circumstances, use matches to light a fire or a gas stove or an electric stove or light a candle. Don't do those things, especially the gas stove. That is a recipe for a fire. Don't. If you want to, sometimes it's safe, but you got to be very careful. You can turn on your oven and you can open the door a little. You got to be careful with that one, though. It really depends, but be careful with the oven. Do not light stuff on fire. That is very dangerous. Huddle together, wear warm clothing. Huddle together in one spot. Go to the highest space possible with the most windows. The sun, especially if the sun comes out, it will heat up. But go to the highest space available in your house because heat rises. Do not go into the basement. Go into the highest point of your house and huddle together near a window because the sun will heat you up. That sounds very barbaric, but unfortunately, unprecedented times call for unprecedented measures. Now, in terms of driving, don't. If the roads are icy, don't drive. The test I like to perform before I go out, before I even get in my car, is I walk down my driveway and I walk down my road and I shuffle my feet. And if I slide, like I slide with no movement whatsoever, it's not safe to drive. I come from an area where we are accustomed to driving in blizzards and driving and plowing through snow. In Texas, they are not. If you are not accustomed, don't do it. You do not have to go out. It is safer to walk. If you have to go to the grocery store, now if you live out in the middle of rural Texas and you absolutely have to drive, go slow. Don't go so slow that you're going like 15 miles an hour because that's just as dangerous. Go a good comfortable, I believe, if it's a 55, go about 35 miles per hour. Usually cut it down by about 20, but don't go so slow that you're impeding traffic because you could get T-boned or hit or rear-ended and you could slide off the road and that could be very devastating. But do go slow. But if you are in an area where you can walk to the grocery store or walk to whatever place you need to go, I would encourage you to bundle up and I would encourage you to walk. It is safer than driving if there's ice on the road. Now, if the roads are dry, again, go at your own risk, but you should be okay. But don't drive if the roads are icy. Now, if you get in a situation, if you're in your car and you want to test if the roads are icy, do a light brake tap. If nobody else is around you, don't brake check somebody. But if nobody else is around you, do a light brake tap. If your car keeps going after you brake, like it slides, that's a good indication you should get off the road. But if it stops, you're good to go. Or if it gives the impression that it's stopping, go. That's good to go. But don't first of all, don't brake check somebody. But if your car slides, that's an indication that you want to get off the road. That's about the advice I can offer. You guys aren't getting huge amounts of snow down in Texas, so I can't speak to, telling you the proper way to shovel snow. Spoiler alert, there is no proper way. You just got to shovel it. Obviously, I don't think you guys have snow blowers. If you do want a snow blower, you get one because they make life so much easier, but you probably won't be using it in the near distant future. But back to this situation, I just wanted to pop in a little advice as somebody who grew up, has lived in the North his entire life, and understands how winter weather works. I wanted to just give a little advice. But back to the story. The absolute lack of leadership from the elected officials in Texas is appalling. These are the people elected to serve and help and defend the people. And what are they doing? They are fleeing the state. It doesn't matter what excuse they give, why they said they did it, why they wanted to do it. It is absolutely inexcusable behavior. And I do hope that the Texas voters remember who screwed them over during this time when they go to the polls in 2022, 2024, and 2026. Texas, you could have had Beto O'Rourke, who was helping the people, who was down there helping you. Meanwhile, the senator who beat him, the one that you elected, Ted Cruz, took off to Cancun. Now, he came back early, ladies and gentlemen. He came back early, but, he still abandoned his people in their time of need. He went off on a little vacation and, he just couldn't be there. He couldn't take the cold. You can freeze to death in your home, but Ted Cruz, he's got to hop on his plane and he's got to go down to Cancun for a week. And, it's bad enough Ted Cruz does it. You think that people would say, wow, this is a learning lesson. I apologize. We won't do this again. But then you have Gary Gates, a congressman from Texas, taking off on his private jet to Orlando, Florida. You think he would have learned from Ted Cruz and said, hey, maybe I shouldn't take off on vacation to a tropical area while my state is in crisis. While people in my state, my people, my citizens that I was elected to serve are freezing to death in their homes. Nah, I'm just going to go to Orlando, Florida. I'm going to go to Disney World. I'm going to go have fun riding Space Mountain while you freeze to death in your home with no access to clean water. It shows you who these people serve. They do not serve the people. They serve their own interests. And like I said, I do hope the Texas voters remember this treachery in the upcoming elections. And I hope that they choose some people who are better for their state. They don't necessarily have to be Democrats. They can be Republicans, but they have to be Republicans who don't serve their own interests, like Cancun Cruz and I guess Orlando Gates. Actually, that sounds like a celebrity name. But elect people who care for you, who do right by you. And I hope that Texas can see past these snakes, see them for who they are, see them serving their own interests and not the Texas people, and they can choose better representatives. I hope that there are some decent Republicans out there who come to challenge them. Not only have Democrats challenge them, but have Republicans challenge them as well. This is the chance for the Republican Party to prove that they are not going to take this. First they have the election fraud scandal, then they have the insurrection, then they have the impeachment of Donald Trump. This is their chance to step up. This is their chance to say what these people are doing is wrong. It is appalling. We, other Texas representatives are better, but so far they have bungled the whole show. Like I said, Texas, remember this next election. Remember this in 2022. Remember who you voted for in this past election. Remember what they did to you. Remember what they did for you and who they served, because they certainly did not serve you. Anyway, back to get onto a different topic related to the Texas deep freeze. Hopefully the end is near. Here in Michigan, we are going to be experiencing temperatures in the 40s this week. So hopefully that deep freeze lifts and the snow can melt down in Texas, or a little bit of that ice, and we can get the power back on. And this is a good time to discuss the Texas power grid, which has been independent of the eastern and western power grids in the United States. It's high time that Texas joins the rest of the country on the power grid. This wouldn't be happening if they were on the national power grid, because the national power grid would have more than enough power to put them through this hard winter. But because they're on their own independent grid that's been mismanaged for decades, they unfortunately are not able to receive the basic necessity that is electricity in the modern era. Also, don't listen to anybody, and I do mean this very certainly. Do not listen to any nincompoop who tells you that alternative energy is to blame for this crisis. Alternative energy would be saving the people of Texas right now. If they had built their windmills properly, and I mean attached the anti-freezing measures. By the way, we have windmills here in Michigan. They're fine during the winter. They have windmills up in Canada, and they have windmills in Antarctica, which regularly operate in temperatures below 140 degrees freezing, which is negative 140 degrees, and a really weird way to say that. They operate year-round under intense freezing. They can do it. You just need to attach some basic heating generators, and you're good to go. The windmills could have powered Texas through this energy crisis. Solar energy works 10 times better in the snow because the white snow reflects the light into the solar panels 10 times better than it does on a hot summer day. Alternative energy could have fixed this crisis, but instead it is being blamed for it when it is the solution, not the problem. The problem is an independent electricity network that has been manipulated by greedy businessmen for the better half of 30 years. It is high time Texas joins the rest of the nation. It is high time we switch to the alternative energy standard and stop relying on fossil fuels and fossil forms of energy that are outdated and serve us no good, and switch to a greener form of energy: wind energy, solar energy, hydroelectricity. Hydroelectricity is insane. Dams, the Hoover Dam, do you know how much electricity the Hoover Dam puts out every year? It's insane numbers, and we could be powering that. No longer would we have to burn fire to stay warm. No longer would we have to dump oil in our cars to make them go. We could power a world where there is no dependence on fossil fuels, and we have infinitely renewable energy. Yet we would rather waste our time paying $2.53 a gallon for gasoline when we could be paying half that to have electric cars. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a long way to go when it comes to renewable energy, and many people are still not convinced on its benefits. But I am hoping that this Texas crisis sees people open their eyes and say, hey, maybe now is the time to switch to renewable energy. Now is the time to embrace the future, save our planet, and put forth a renewable source of energy that can last us for decades, centuries. It could last us infinitely into the future, because guess what? We will never run out of wind. We will never run out of sunlight. And God pray we do not run out of water. But we will run out of coal. We will run out of oil. We will run out of fossil fuels. That's why they're called fossil fuels. They are soon to be fossilic relics of the past. But with that is all I wanted to discuss in today's episode of World Events. Thank you guys for watching. I'm going to tune back down to a lighter stance now because the serious bit is done. I want to thank you guys for watching. I have some new material coming up. I'm very excited to show it to you. I'm very excited to put out a new type of show. I know I said World Events replaced that internet show, and it did to an extent, but I want to have a more skit-based show, and maybe I'll I'm thinking developing that internet short into more of that, skit-based comedy, because I still like to do some skits. I like to keep it a little bit lighthearted. I don't want doom and gloom all the time, but sometimes you have to report doom and gloom to make sure that the facts are reported and that people are up to date on the information. But one final time, I want to thank you guys for watching. If you like the video, like it. If you want to see more, subscribe and hit that bell. That lets me know that you like this kind of content and that you want to see more in the future. With that, for the 4th or 5th time, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Wave bye-bye with me. Bye-bye.